I think we're getting back to, even with the Kanye doc and all that stuff, I think we're getting back to more storytelling and caring less about what the footage looks like. Oh yeah, I got some notes, dog.
Oh, you
Your
got
boys,
some.
boys,
Oh,
come on.
all right, all right. Well, if you have some notes, you should just start in. Let's go.
Well, no, it's with your topics.
Oh, you took notes on the
Yeah.
topics I put in.
Yeah.
All right, all right. I see what it
And
is.
I was like,
I tell you to go research, and then you're like, yeah, I'll research the topics you put in, and I'll take notes.
no, I was
love
so
it.
slacking. I had so much to do, and I was just like, I just didn't have time. But
I
I'm
didn't
ready.
either. I didn't either. But if we don't do it, if we don't just keep doing
Right.
this, it's never going to happen. So,
Yep.
I mean, I found some stuff because I was looking at. I know you and I have been talking about like newsletters and stuff on the side, and I've been looking at doing something like that too. So I think this has been helpful because I've been like researching what's like the gear that's dropping, and
Yeah.
that's how I found that 12K
Which
camera.
is insane. Let's start off with that then.
It is crazy.
The Blackmagic 12K.
It's only $7,000,
which is so affordable for
in
what you
the
get.
cinema world, yeah,
Right. But 12K.
yeah. So I like looked into it because I'm like, why would we want 12K if like nobody's even using 4K? Well, like
Right.
people are using it, but like everybody buys a 4K TV, and like we were talking about, you can't watch most TV channels are 1080 still or 720 because they don't have the ability to stream it out 4K.
I don't think people realize that yet, though. You know
No,
what I
they
mean? Like
don't.
the regular consumer doesn't understand that, and they buy it and they're like, "Oh, we're watching 4K,"
It's funny.
but they have no clue.
They have no clue.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some movies in 4K.
Right. Yeah, and even YouTube started to. You could watch some stuff in 4K, but I think one of the big things was to kind of upsell as a in the production world, you could almost upsell your client, being like, "Oh, we're going to film in 4K." Instead of the regular 1080. Your client has no clue what it is. It's just, oh, 4K sounds good. Here's a couple $100 more.
Yeah.
But now what are you going to say? Like, oh, we're going to film it in 12K. You're still going to get it in 1080. We're still going to export it and hand it to you in 1080. But now you're going to get it in 12K. Like, it just doesn't. It doesn't matter to them.
It doesn't. I think it matters to bigger studios. And then when I was reading about this Blackmagic camera, it's basically the sensors acting like old beta cameras used to be. So like old beta cameras used to shoot 3 separate sensors, a red sensor, green sensor, and a blue sensor. And then they would all go into a prism, and that would be your image, which gave you the pure red colors, green colors, and blue colors because they were all on their own sensor.
Right. So color grading, it's better for that. It's better for like VFX and all, green screen stuff. There's more detail cropping in. But
right. And then that's what happens because like the Raptor, you can shoot 8K. The minute you want to shoot higher frame rates, like say 240 frames, you have to go to 4K.
Which crops in on the sensor.
It crops in on the sensor because of all this processing, because it's a Bayer sensor, which is how a lot of cameras work currently. This new sensor is RGBW, which basically has a luminance on it. So you can shoot the full resolution, full frame, even at 4K. So like it doesn't crop in on its sensor.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So like if you only needed to shoot 4K, you could shoot 4K on that camera.
Still use the whole sensor.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that is the upside to it, I guess. I mean, I don't think people are running out the door to get this camera.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, the other thing too is like, hard drive space, right. SSDs, the cloud storage, like they need to kind of advance a little bit to keep up with what's going on. How you're going to shoot 12K, you're going to be at a couple terabytes after one shoot.
Oh yeah. Cause I mean, I think 8K on the Red at 24 frames is a terabyte an hour, I believe.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. So you're not shooting interviews.
Right.
I mean, even if you're shooting a documentary, like I feel like most people still shoot docs. Like if they shoot 4K, they're shooting like the Canon cameras, the Sony cameras. Mm-hmm. They're not shooting in RAW. Like most people are not shooting a documentary in RAW because of the space.
You know what's funny too is like I think we're getting back to even with the Kanye doc and all that stuff. I think we're getting back to more storytelling and caring less about what the footage looks like, which is great. I think. Obviously, there's some VFX and color grading, and people want the beautiful image and as much as they can do, so they'll buy this camera and try to manipulate the image as best they can. But yeah, I never would see myself buying a 12K camera being like, all right, I'm going to shoot this feature, or like
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think I'm there either because like even the 8K, like when we go on shoots, we try not to shoot the 8K. The
Right.
problem is you don't get the full sensor.
Right.
So like, which is it's tough because like you want to keep using the camera to its abilities, but you also, like you said, you don't have all the drive space in the world. I mean, like if you're going to back up files, if you're using like an array drive that's like 120 terabytes to back up all your projects, that's like $6,000-7,000 for the
Right.
hard drive,
Yep.
and you should probably get two of them.
Right. Right. A
I mean,
backup.
yeah, I mean you should.
Yep.
Like we back up all of our stuff at studio and then offsite location. So like if you have 120 terabytes, you need really 240.
Hmm.
And so like where does this end?
Now, do you think because Blackmagic's been pushing the limits with their cameras to the consumer? They've been trying to pack as much punch as they can.
Right.
Do you think Canon and Sony and all these other companies are going to try to do the same and keep up? So like now they're going to have some 12K cameras that are somewhat affordable, or not yet?
I could see Sony maybe. I mean, one of the other cameras I've been looking at, and I listed out here is the Sony Burano. It's their like flagship monster camera, and it's been out for at least a year. It shoots 8K. It's like 8.6, I think. And so that's their high end. So they're already at 8K.
Yeah.
Same reason. So you could downsize to 4. Like nobody's putting out a client film at 8K. There's no reason.
Dude, no one's putting client films out at 4K.
No, most people
you're
aren't.
exporting at 1080 still.
I mean, we'll send a 4K version, but like most clients are asking for the 1080 because they're going to stream it somewhere. They're going to put it. But if they're going to put it on YouTube, yeah, you could give them the 4K.
Mhm.
But most people, like if you're on a phone, you're watching YouTube, you can watch it in 4K, but your phone doesn't even display 4K.
Right. They'll
At
go
least
to
the
upload
iPhones
it.
don't.
Yeah, they'll go to upload and they'll be like, "Why is this taking 3 hours? What's going on?" Because they just don't know,
And then what happens on YouTube is it only plays the resolution that's good for your connection. So like if you have like shitty Wi-Fi, it's going to play at like 360.
Yeah.
Like you might not even get 720 because if you want to watch something, it has to then like buffer. And if you don't have the bandwidth to do it, then you're not going to be able to watch 4K. So
that's very true.
I don't know where it's all heading, but I think Sony could do it. I think they would do a 12K, but they're more focused on like updating their current line. So like I just read that I think this year into next year, they're going to start redoing their FX6, FX9, and 3.
I think that's a great move for them.
Yeah. And I mean, man, I don't know. I don't know. The Burano, have you even looked at it? I mean, it's super expensive. It's flagship. It's basically up there with the Reds. It's like 25K.
Wow.
But it's Sony family. So say you had a Burano, a 6, and a 3. You now have like, they're all the same color science. You have like the high end. That's the thing with the Reds is it's like the Komodo is, I guess, the lowest end, which you can get for like $7,000, but like an FX3 is tiny.
But so this is how I look at it too, is like, if I'm going to drop 20 grand on a camera, the hard part is in 5 years, that camera's going to be a paperweight.
Yeah. Right.
Is it worth it just to rent instead of buying? Because what we were talking about, one of the things we were talking about is like the future of production, and if we had to start back at zero, you know what I mean? For me,
what would you do? Yeah,
I would 100%. I would dive into one thing. I wouldn't try to learn all of it,
Meaning what?
Like if I was into editing, I would just focus on learning
Got it.
editing, or if I was just like filming and video, I would just do that. I wouldn't try to do like all of it and the business side and everything. It's
Right.
just, yeah, just master that one craft. But um, yeah, I think everyone loves gear. You love to buy stuff, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like just rent it. You could have a regular, if you're starting from zero, it doesn't matter because you could just, if you get a good job, a good client, you get the price, you could rent all the professional gear you need and be just as good as the production company that bought all the gear. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
I mean, you have a point. I mean, the only counter to that is depending on, like, we get a lot of last minute
Yeah.
asks, which, like renting certain stuff might not be available, or it's harder to get, or now you spend a day trying to go pick up that rental or get it shipped. Like lens rentals is great. And if they want to sponsor this podcast, that's awesome. So we rent a ton from them, but they can only get you gear. Like, I think you have to do it 2 days before. Like, that's
Yeah.
the smallest window, but it's great. Shows up, you just use it and then ship it back. And I
Yeah. I
think
mean, they definitely make it easy.
for most people, that's great. You could
Yeah.
rent a camera and you just basically put the price tag inside of the invoice, because that's what you should do as a freelancer. And that's like, if you're listening to this as a client, that's what happens. Because if you had to go rent some of this gear, you're looking at thousands upon thousands of dollars. So there is a slight charge when a production company comes in and brings you all this gear.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the rental thing works, but if you're going to use it a crazy amount, you could probably pay for it and then some. And then in the 3 years, 4 years, you could try and sell it for, it's kind of like a car. It's basically the same thing. Like,
Right.
you're never going to like make money off of it after you buy it. Like,
Yeah. I mean,
you're,
I would buy everything but the camera. I would buy lights, I would buy cables, I would buy, audio set, everything. I would rent the camera. That way you don't need to upgrade the camera every 5 years. You can just keep renting or rent for different jobs because there's no one perfect camera and you're not just kind of throwing away money.
yeah, that makes sense. Like, I think the hardest thing is like, where do you go with lenses? Do you go, I think if I was going to do that and start all over and I was going to do exactly what you're saying, I would do lights and I would do PL lenses, because PL lenses can fit on almost any camera. You can get an adapter.
Yeah.
And they're also like, they last a lot longer because of their use case. Like EF, you're stuck in Canon, RF, Canon, E, Sony. And that's the crappy thing about buying lenses. Like, if you want a lens for your Fuji camera, it's not going to fit your Canon without an adapter. And
I mean, but that's the
autofocus
thing.
doesn't work.
It's like just get an adapter.
Yeah, but then you can't use the autofocus. I mean, you could
on
try.
some of well, depending on what adapter you get, I guess.
They're slow though. Like the
That's
Metabones
true.
are slow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the other thing.
Are you using autofocus? We're
No,
kind of manual focusing everything.
I'm not. But
don't talk yourself out of it,
dude. It's getting so good now. Like,
it's getting so good.
That's why when I look at these, I look at the Sony cameras. Even the Burano has autofocus. It's pretty sick. Like, yeah, Cine lenses don't have that, which now they have LiDAR, which I have not. Have you used one of those LiDAR
I haven't,
systems?
but it's just so much to hook up just for that, for autofocus. I mean, it is amazing.
Sick.
Yeah.
So like Cine lenses work perfectly. I've never used it, so I don't know how well it works. I think there's still some like things they're trying to figure out with it. But most jobs, you're not using autofocus.
Right.
So
yeah, and let me tell you, the Canon needs to step up their game, because the C70, one of my favorite cameras ever to use, their autofocus is terrible. It's terrible.
Terrible. I mean, we used it a little bit on that hunting film we did.
Dude, a little bit, but it's like we're outside in the daylight and it can't even focus on what we're trying to shoot. I mean, like, and that's the worst when you're hitting record and it's pulling focus. You're like, I need the shot. So you got to flick it out of, autofocus, be in manual focus. It's just, you don't want to be in that situation.
The Sonys are good. The
Sony's great.
Fuji's pretty good too. Like I have the XH-S2, and just filming my son play in the snow, like it will do like eye focus, and then it will actually track like the back of your head while you're running through stuff, and like it can detect you versus like a tree. I feel like the C70 was like, it was just a
C7 is terrible.
crapshoot. Like you
Yeah,
could
and that's the
throw a
good thing.
ball and it would autofocus on the
Yeah,
tree.
that's the good thing about, like, I mean, Canon's new, their R3, their R1. It's like, just like you said with the Sony, when you turn your head, it'll still stay in focus because it knows that that's what you're trying to capture. So it doesn't like start hunting right away.
Right.
But I think you also need to mess with some of those settings as well.
So why don't they put that, like,
But you would think they'd put it in the
why does
C70.
Canon do that? Because like
Yeah.
Sony's like, oh, we'll just put the same thing in all of the cameras, right? That makes sense. People are like, yeah, thanks. Canon's like, no, we're gonna give you
a
it in
taste.
certain cameras, and then you've got to wait for the next upgrade. And the next upgrade, you'll have to like crank start it, and then like,
But that's because they want you to buy their next thing, and they think that that'll make it obsolete if they do. That's my guess, and it's stupid.
in each version, they like take something away.
Yeah.
They're like, we give you the best autofocus, but now there's no internal NDs. It's like,
Yeah.
they have to, because that's their way of winning the game, I guess.
Right. Dude, internal NDs are huge.
Well, the Sony Burano has internal NDs. So basically you're getting...
Right, because the Red doesn't have any NDs.
No.
So you're right.
So this is where I'm at. I'm not saying I'm going to do it because the last time I did it was a bad idea, but it has crossed my mind. I think if I could put all my Red cameras together and have a buyer and it made sense, I might do this, because
also with the Canons, the C70s and
I would
the
get
300,
rid of all the cameras and I'd just go Sony.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it would suck for lenses, I guess. So it's one of those things. Like I would definitely have to look into it, but internal NDs, it's like a flagship 8K camera, so it shoots all the resolution you need. And then you've got all the versions that go down. Like if Red came out with a FX3 style camera, which maybe with Nikon, since Nikon bought them, they will.
I know. What do you think their next move is?
I kind of think, I don't know. It's almost like Nikon bought them to either use the technology in their cameras and wipe out Red, which is a possibility. I just don't like, Red doesn't seem as prominent in the market anymore. Like,
right.
They're not pushing a lot. There's not a lot of people talking about it anymore.
Well, they came out.
It worries me because I own the cameras, and I'm like, are people, like, I've heard recently, actually from Emily, producer, she said that a lot of things she's doing, which are like commercial style stuff, everybody's asking for Alexa. And nobody wants to shoot Red anymore, which I'm like, I don't know if that's 100% true. Like if you're at that high end commercial, like I guess people can dictate like, oh, we only want to shoot the Alexa.
But I think they're doing that just like they did the Red because of the name recognition. I don't think they're doing it for the actual value of the camera.
No, but Alexa has been a household name forever. Right. I mean, it's the image. It's really hard for like a consumer to see it, but like the image on Alexa is like a softer feel. So like, and they're not pushing like 8K, 12K. They're just, it's 4K. It's like, this is it. They're also, a lot of people are pushing into Super 35 more than full frame. So like Alexa came out with a Super 35 camera. I know that Red pushed a Super 35 and the Vista Vision Red Raptor. And I got the Vista Vision because you get more out of your image. You get more depth of field, but Super 35, there's a lot more lenses that cover it.
Dude, the image that comes out of the Red,
it's sick.
On the Red monitor is silly. Yeah. So good.
It is. I mean, it's a beautiful camera. I do love it. And realistically, I probably wouldn't go full Sony, but if I were to get rid of all my Canons for like events and like smaller projects, it would just be nice to have one camera system.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing for me is like, why have all these camera systems, all these parts everywhere when you could just have one, streamline everything. And I think that's the big thing for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all your lenses are EF, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which the Red was either RF or EF mount.
Yeah. So the old Reds were EF.
Yeah.
The Komodo that I have is RF. The Raptor is RF, which is weird that they did that.
It is. And obviously they'll be switching it because Nikon owns them. But
Yeah. Will they switch it to PL or like, because they used to do PL, or will they go to Z?
go to the Nikon, yeah.
I just don't, I don't think that would be a good idea, because there's not, like, Nikon glass is nice, but there's no cinema glass.
But here's the other thing. You have so many consumers that are YouTubers and things like that who are using the Reds, using the Komodos, using things like that. So it's like these cameras are so affordable now. To go to PL, to me,
Right.
would be kind of weird because there's so many other options with lenses that are EF, Z, all the other name brands besides PL.
But what do you do? Like, I wonder if there was a contract thing. Like, they bought Red. Red was using Canon, RF, and EF, which probably took a lot to get that. They were also using, I believe Red had like a deal with Apple too to have ProRes, which some other cameras shoot still now. But I wonder if some of those contracts like carry over, like the RF, the EF, or if they can't use that now that they own them.
I would think they can't use it now that
right,
because it's a whole different. It's their competitor. It wouldn't make sense.
So they would have to change it.
Yeah,
but they haven't launched a camera in. What was the last?
What did they buy it last year?
Yeah, they bought it last year, and so the X was launched. The Komodo X was launched before that, so they haven't launched a camera yet. Although, here's another thing that just came up, and I was thinking about this. All the tariffs that are, dude, camera gear is going to get expensive. And so I was like looking it up. I'm like, when does this go into, and like
it's going into effect like today.
So B&H, hit B&H hard right now. It's February 4th. Hit it hard. Buy as much gear as you can, and then just sell it to everybody else. I mean, I think you're going to see some of that. I think you're going to see people buying out cameras. I mean, B&H has the product here. So like if you're buying an FX3, they're probably not going to increase the price.
I was going to say, I would think that more like what's the Hunt's Photo, places like that. I think more of that might come back now that these tariffs are on, because these companies can they'll pay the taxes to get the camera gear over here, sell it in-house, and then that way the consumer doesn't get hit with the tax that would have been.
Well, you're going to get hit with it, dude. 10%. I mean, you buy a camera for 10 grand, that's $1,000. Like, they're going to hit you with it. The camera will now be 11 grand.
Yeah.
Like, and it's in China. And
I guess we don't really think about it because New Hampshire's tax free, but you go out of state, you get hit with some tax too when you buy stuff. So like, Yeah,
but this is different. This is import. This is not sales tax. I mean, it affects it, but like, this is like B&H selling you a 10,000 camera for 11,000 now because they're paying it.
They have to pay the tax. Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you have no tax in your state. You just don't pay like the sales tax on top of that.
Right.
So I don't know what's going to happen, but I think gear is going to get a lot more expensive. But rentals will get expensive too.
You're right. I mean, I guess everything would go up a little bit.
Mexico that's not going into play for another month. Red cameras, or at least the Komodo line, are made in Mexico. So, although Nikon
bring it back here.
I don't know.
Make it in the U.S.
I mean, they used to make some of the Red cameras in California.
Right.
I know they designed them, they built them, but then I think it gets to a point where, like, I get that to bring manufacturing back here, and it would be great. We just don't. I think we don't have the facilities at the moment, and we also don't have the people. I mean, people don't want to work, dude.
They don't. Tell me about it.
So, like, but how are you going to get people to fill
I think they
factories?
Will. I think they will.
I don't know.
Man.
I mean, Tesla did it. They're making cars here.
Yeah.
It would be cool to start making stuff again and like having it be like American made.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's his whole plan, obviously to bring companies back to America. It's going to suck for a minute, I think, obviously, to pay a higher price because companies are still overseas. But is it worth them being over there, or is it worth it for them to come back and build, a new plant in the United States and start doing it from home.
Yeah, but like Sony and Canon is, I think, a Japanese company, and I think Sony is too. So it's like they're not going to make cameras in the US. That'd be insane. Like that just doesn't make sense. So like cameras, I mean, all of the consumables that we have that are electronic, like none of that shit's going to be made here. No chance.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you could make like laptops here, but I just don't think cost wise it makes sense.
Right.
I don't know. We're going to see.
Yeah.
I mean, I just thought about that today with cameras. I'm like, oh shit, cameras are going to get expensive. Like they're already expensive, but if you need a new camera, buy it today. If you're listening to this,
today's your last
actually
day.
This isn't going to drop today, so if you're listening to this, you missed out on the B&H order. You're now going to pay 10% more probably, unless they shield it because they already have the product here in the States. There might be like a legal thing, like if you already have the product in your warehouse,
right,
you're not legally allowed to raise the price.
Oh, I mean they can do whatever they want, but
I don't know though if it's a federal thing though. If it's a tariff, I don't know that you can just like straight up be like, yeah, it's 10% more.
Well, why can't they?
Yeah, I guess
company.
you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the plan is then. Maybe like start your own Hunts video and buy all the cameras now. And
that's the move.
Make 10% on everything.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Damn.
That was something that just came up when I was looking at stuff. I'm like, damn, like
that's true. I didn't even really think about that at all.
Yeah, I mean for everything. But so if you were to switching it up, if you were to start completely over, besides renting, like would you focus on a certain area in filmmaking? Like, do you think there's like a certain niche, or is there a certain style? Like, if you had to start zero,
if I had to start at zero, and I didn't have children, I wasn't married, like I could kind of do whatever, I think I would dive more into the documentary. I would do the things that I would love to do. I would love shooting docs. I would focus on that instead of shooting, just anything and everything to try to, make some money here and there to get to the next point. I think I would just focus on just shooting documentaries and try to just build that instead of getting sidetracked.
Yeah. It's like make the films you want to make because you don't have to support anybody but yourself.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that. I think that's what happens is you get into making all these client films and doing all these really cool projects and you almost lose sight of the reason you started.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I think everybody kind of has the same story. When you start filming, then your aunt is like, "Oh, can you film our wedding? Your uncle's wedding, whatever." And then it's like the store owner of your neighbor, "Oh, can you film a quick commercial for me?" And then you start doing these little odd jobs, and then you're like, "Oh, I can make some money doing this," and then you kind of dive into it, but it's not really what you want to do. It's just making you money, and yeah. I would rather if I could go back, I'd rather do what I want to do because eventually it'll make you money. It might just take a little longer, but
yeah. And I think there are people that did that. Like people who started their YouTube channels and just started filming them do crazy stuff. Like even like if you look at Casey Neistat, like he just filmed fun videos and things that he was interested in.
Dude, is he still putting stuff out?
I haven't looked recently, but last year it wasn't like every day.
Yeah.
It was more minimal. And then I think he was getting into more like art direction and like creative direction. But I think he got burnt out for sure.
Dude, you have to. Every day putting out a friggin' video. Yeah.
He killed it though. I mean, he got to where he is now because of that. So like it's a double-edged sword. You got to look at it that way. Like he's able to possibly do whatever he wants now because he's got the household name.
Yep.
I mean, Peter McKinnon, same thing. Like he started doing, I remember like when his first videos came out, like I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like tips. It was like photo tips and tricks.
Yeah.
And it just took off.
I mean, he just has such a good personality. He killed the game. He killed it.
Yeah. And as we're sidelined watching this, I keep doing that for stuff. I keep like sidelining myself and like,
Mhm.
I'm like, oh man, they just did this cool thing. Oh, this is dope. Like people are doing, which is great. I mean, you're never going to be able to do everything that everybody else is doing, but
Right.
the longer you wait to jump in, like in 10 years, you'll be like, shit, I guess I should have started doing
Yep.
YouTube because it
Dude,
grew 10x more.
I think about this all the time, and I don't know if I'm going to explain this correctly, but just hear me out.
I would love it.
So,
Let's go.
so back in the day, remember 50 Cent? So,
I remember 50 Cent.
obviously, so, he's huge now. He's massive, household name, blah, blah, blah. But back in the day when he dropped his mixtape and stuff, like it was just getting around here. We were listening to it. And, same with Chris Brown. You hear these people and you're like, damn, this is dope. They're just young kids. And
Yeah.
you're in the same. I look back and I'm like, I'm in the same goddamn position I was, and they are up here. Like, what am I doing?
Comparing yourself to 50 Cent?
my two-stepping. No, but I'm just like, what is it that, like, why aren't we pushing ourselves to do what we want to do? Because I look at it and I'm just like, within 5 years, they were here and now they're here. And I'm still here being like, just watching them go. Like, why aren't I motivating myself to do something better? Does that kind of make sense? Like you're watching these other people, you literally see them from the start and then you see them rise, but then you look back at yourself and you're still in that same spot. You're like, what am I not doing right? Like, why am I still static?
Well, I think it's easy to look at it and say you think you're in the same spot.
True.
I don't think you are in the same spot, but like same with me, like I do it all the time. I'm like, I can't believe like we're not accelerating like at a bigger speed. We're not doing more like big documentary projects. We're not doing the next level thing. But if you take a step back, it's like we have come a long way in filming and all the things that we've done. And maybe it's not exponential like some of these people, but I mean, they literally did one thing and they just pushed it until they heard yes. They were like, we're going to push this music until somebody says, yes, I'll sign you. And they just like didn't give up on that one thing. So like if you started today and you said, I'm going to film wildlife 4 times a week and put out videos 3 times a week for the next year, dude, you'd have thousands of subscribers. Guaranteed.
My wife's going to hate me. All right, I'm out of here.
But I think that's the other thing is
100%.
Like when some of these people started, like they didn't have all the extra things. They didn't have families. So like that's the problem. Like you can't throw everything by the wayside right now because you have to support the family
responsibilities.
And like, so, and you could look back and be like, oh, I should have started YouTube when I was in college because that was when it was like I was posting videos, but not seriously.
Yeah.
But like, even if somebody told you, it's like going back to the friggin' Bitcoin thing. Like you knew about it back in the day. Like people told people this is a thing and it was like $10. People were like, that's stupid. And then it got to be $1,000. People were like, this is ridiculous. No one's going to buy it. And now it's like $99,000 of Bitcoin.
Yep.
But you could look back and be like, oh, I should have done it. I should have started YouTube. But you could still do it now. You could start now. And you could do it to the ability that you can right now. So what
do you think's the next thing?
Well, one of the big next things for social media and marketing is live shopping. But that doesn't really help what we're trying to do. Mm-hmm. But I guess that's where markets are going. Like basically people are the next QVC. So like everybody's live selling things. And I guess that's massive. Yeah. Because China's been doing it for years. They've been doing it for 5, 6, 7 years. And it's been huge. Like brands have been selling out of stuff because people love to shop online. And why not shop live when the product is scarce? So that's the next biggest thing for social. And I guess it's been going on for a bit here in the US. For video and creation, I think the best avenue, if you know something about an industry, like if you know film or if you know photography, you just figure out the things that you know and you just drive those home and you deliver that content. Doesn't mean like reviews, but maybe it's like you said, newsletter. You're gonna like starting a newsletter, but it's
Your boy
starting.
dropped it today, by the way,
There
this
you go.
morning.
See?
Yeah, we're on it.
So it's about just doing it. Like, I mean, I've talked
Yeah.
about a newsletter for a year. We talked about a podcast forever, and we finally started it. And like, we're not deep into it. I think we're like 20 something episodes, but if we keep putting them out, we're going to get better at it. We might get more people to listen. And it's like, it's an experiment. Like, you don't know the result until you do it.
And this is one of the good things too, is like, cause we're talking about things that we enjoy. So it's not like we're struggling being like, all right, we got to do this. I mean, we obviously every week, like we're trying to put it out, we're doing it, but it's like, it's something that we enjoy talking about and doing. So it's not hard to be like, oh, let's jump on the podcast and talk about an episode. You know what I mean? Like, we're not forcing ourselves because it's like easy stuff we love to do.
Yeah. And I think people think that podcasting is a simple, easy thing to do. And it's not, unless you love talking about a topic, like you said. Like, you have to have a passion about something. You can't just be like, well, I'm going to make a bunch of money off of a newsletter and it's a topic you don't care about. Like,
Right.
It has to be something, no matter what you're doing, whether it's your job or your hobby, you have to have some sort of passion behind what you're doing, because you only do this once, as far as we know. And it's like, if you're going to spend
I like what you did there.
Half of your life working, you should enjoy some of it. Like, you should not just be working, unless you're in a situation where you're like, I need to make money to provide for my family and I don't have time to like find a passion. I understand that. But if you have an option right now, you should be doing something you enjoy slightly. It doesn't have to be like, I love work 100% every day. I show up, I'm so excited. But you should enjoy it, because like, there's 1,000 things that you could do. Like, if you have an education and you have some sort of skill set, there's a lot of opportunity for you if you seek it in the right spaces. And I understand that some people are not as fortunate as others, but if you are in that fortunate group and you're complaining about your job, you should go find something that you love.
Dude, see, I agree with 90% of that. My thing is like, everybody in the United States is fortunate. At the end of the day, everybody has a phone. Everybody has access to the internet. You know, your phone can do extraordinary things. You can make a podcast just with your phone, a video podcast.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like with me, with wildlife, I love wildlife. If I sat there and talked about it, you know, I have kids, I have a restaurant, I have a wife, I have responsibilities I have to do. But guess what? At 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, I could jump on, film an episode, and then go to bed, do, you know, go to work, do everything I need to do. Next 10 p.m., do the same thing. It's like, you make time for what you want to do. And it's like, if you're passionate about something, you can make time. You'll make time for it. You know, no matter how busy you are, you'll make time for it. But it's just like, just do it.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of time we have in a day, and like, say you work 8 hours a day, there's a lot of time on either side of that. Yeah, maybe it means waking up earlier than you want to.
100%.
Which sucks. But like, you know what sucks even more is not doing the thing that you love. Like,
exactly.
Dude, I did a whole year waking up at 5 a.m. when I lived in Boston. And it was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Like, I read this book. It was like, I don't know, something about like miracle mornings. I think that's what it's called. It was about like working out at 5 a.m. So then you're done. And it was life-changing, because you got done, like, if you were interested in doing some sort of fitness, you got it done before most people woke up, and then you just do your day, and like,
and you're up and ready for the day too.
Right.
Yeah.
And I found that it got my mind going. So like, even if you were to go for a walk every day at 5 a.m., like, it changes the way you think, and it might change the way that you proceed through life and like your goals.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it adds hours more to your day when you
especially
wake up.
Especially if you have kids.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at any, like, you see some of these like fitness influencers and they have like 4 kids. You're like, how the hell are they working out every day and doing these things? They wake up at like 5 or 4 and they work out and they do their thing and they plan their business, and then they do their family stuff, and then they go to the next block of their day and they do business. So it's like, there's time to do it. People just waste their time.
Absolutely. We're lazy.
I mean, I'm guilty of it. I'll spend time on my phone looking at dumb stuff. Like,
Dude, you know what
And
I did? I'm not going on. I took the social apps off my homepage.
ooh, all
So I
right.
don't, yeah, I mean, I'm only posting for daddy issues, but that I don't go, I'm not, or I'm trying not to go on it. I haven't gone on it yet today. So we'll see how,
So I won't get any more Facebook
don't
messages.
get any messages. Don't
Sick.
get any more of those messages from me.
I
Yeah.
mean,
See how it works, you know?
yeah, I agree. I think if I were to take, it's tough, but if I were to take a lot of social media stuff off my phone, I would probably get more accomplished. I mean, I
Right.
spend most of my time on Twitter now, which is fun because it's like information. It's still dumb though. Most of it's dumb. But like Instagram, I'll go on a little bit for film stuff, but I go on way less than I used to. And I don't post anymore. I think that was one of the things I did early on in my video career and photography career that I kind of wish I spent less time on because
Hmm.
it didn't amount to anything. Like me posting my cool projects I was working on didn't actually get me work.
Yeah.
It was more of just like people liking it and I was like, "Oh, cool, people like what I'm doing."
Gives you that little dopamine hit for a minute.
It's
Yeah.
just but it was weird like and I would only post it if it was like, "Oh, this is a really really good photo."
Hmm.
Like it wasn't just random stuff. And now I feel like it's gone back to like some people are just posting whatever. User generated is cooler now, but the less polished stuff doesn't do as well.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
the
I jump on and I just start scrolling. Like I'll jump on for a reason and then I'll
right.
get sidetracked and just, I'll be like, oh my God, it's been 30 minutes and I've just scrolled through this bullshit.
I put timers on
So,
mine. So I have 15 minutes
ooh,
on each app.
I like that.
But I definitely say
He has the
more time.
passcode
More time.
at
You know,
15.
it just asks you. It's like,
Oh,
would you like
man.
one more minute? And I'm like, yeah, I'd like one more
Of
minute.
course I would.
And then it's like, would you like to just have the rest of the day? And I'm like, yeah, today's a good day to just not do anything that I'm supposed to do.
Oh,
But I mean, a cool idea that I had that they should implement, and maybe somebody's built this, is what if there was a way that when you woke up in the morning, you had to go through certain things to get things unlocked on your phone?
hmm. Yeah, I remember you said that.
Like, what if you had to meditate for 5 minutes because that's part of your routine? Like, you set it all up, and maybe you can make like emergency calls if you need to because that's needed. Like, maybe there's like your favorites you could call.
No, you're all in or you die.
You're like out in the woods dying. It's like you better
You're quickly
meditate
meditating.
first.
Like, oh my God, 2 more minutes. Come on.
You gotta meditate. You gotta work out for an hour. You're like, my leg's broken. It's like you better be working out.
I like that though, and it films you. Oh my God, now we're gonna get caught up on business, and I love it. I love
I
all of it.
think that idea is great because it
Yeah.
would solve a lot of these problems where people are spending too much time doing dumb things.
Hmm.
Imagine if you had to do all these things first, like, oh, you have to journal or something for 5 minutes and it like has you stay on the screen.
Right, it kind of films you.
You can't, or it just like has to stay on that screen, like whether you're journaling there or it's like a timer.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And then it moves to the next thing. And it's like, now you can, whatever, check your email. And then it's like, now there's a freeze on your phone for 2 hours because you're supposed to spend time with your family or something.
Yep. I like that. And then I think you said last time too, I don't know if it's in an app now, but you were like, if you needed to, oh no, it was another podcast I was listening to, but they were like, if you needed to override it for an emergency situation or something, you have like 3 times that you can do that. And then and then that's it. You have 3 times where you can emergency do it. And then you have to like email the company or something and like reset it.
I think there's phones now. So it doesn't run on your phone, but they're like simple phones where you can have like one app or you can't have any social media on it, which is an interesting take. Like if you had a phone that was just like I forget what I heard it on a podcast too, but like people put it's almost like junk food. Like their iPhone with all the crazy apps on it is like their junk food and it stays in the drawer.
Junkfood.com. Oh my God.
Dude, that's taken.
It's definitely
taken. Look it up right now. What about junk phone?
Ooh.
I'll look it up before this goes live in case anybody tries to steal. I need more .coms, you know? Like,
that's the last thing you need is more
I know.
.coms.
I don't know what I'm holding out for. Somebody to buy one.
The big thing, I mean, buy some AI. That's like, I've seen a lot of people start buying .ai.
Dude, realboring.com.
Yeah, that's sick. That's wicked sick.
How is that available? I don't even know how that was available.
Well, dude, just like once you go black.com, I think someone probably just forgot it lapsed and then no one picked it back up.
You can do that, I guess. You can see when things expire and you can wait for the day. And that's how some people have picked up some of these like crazy .coms.
Dude, that one person got that .com from like Coke or something. It wasn't Coke.com, but it was like like Sierra Mist or something.
Yeah.
And they bought it, and then the company had to buy it off of them because whoever in the company let it lapse probably got fired.
Person lost. Yeah, 100%. And maybe they took it out of their pension or something. Like, dude, you let SierraMist.com lapse? That was your only job.
That was your one job.
You were the keeper of the .com. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, because more of that will happen, but I guess .com is still like the one that wins. Yeah. Like .ai is cool, but like .com is what everybody remembers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, I think, I don't know what the plan is with all the .coms that I have. I just hope somebody buys one. Maybe.
Just buy one.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Paul from Kayak bought his .com because he liked the name.
Right.
He bought it for $500,000.
Dude, imagine. And imagine somebody just like emails you and is like, hey, I want your .com.
Exactly what happened, yeah. It's like, I want that name. And they were a company too. But I mean, if you're offered $500,000, I would easily switch up the name real quick and be like, all right.
Yeah, so it must happen.
Yeah.
Often enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to hold on to them.
There you go.
So that's my retirement plan, is my .com portfolio. And then the internet just goes away and it's like something else.
Oh,
it's a crapshoot.
I love it.
Yeah. The one thing that I was looking up recently that I think is in the future of film is being able to invest in movies as a consumer. I think we're going to see, so now there's this like, this goes into the blockchain space, but like RWA, real world assets. So what they're going to do is they're going to start tokenizing things, property, and different like commercial buildings. So like you could own a piece of the Boston Garden if you wanted to. And so instead of investing in companies like Fidelity or TD, you can invest in the properties they own too. So like you could own even a piece of a team. Like,
but now how do you make money off that? Just the valuation of the property or the team goes up, and you can sell or something? You could
sell, or they'll pay dividends. So like over time, just like stocks, like when they hit a certain amount, they pay out dividends. And so like the investors get paid out, depending on how much you have, you get paid out a certain amount. But like if you own a team, like say you bought like, I guess now they're doing it with college teams.
I saw that.
Not tokenizing, but they're selling.
Yeah.
Like people are going to buy into college teams for sports. And then some people were talking about that they might spin off. I think it was in one of the podcasts that we listened to. They're going to spin it off to be its own company. And then you could just use that money to fund programs at the school.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But I think tokenizing all this stuff allows you to own as much or as little as you want and then sell it easily on like a blockchain market. So like you could tokenize a movie. So say you do 10,000 tokens to this movie, we need whatever, however much money you need, $100,000, $200,000. And then that dictates the price.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you take
start doing that with property, like people start doing that like individually with their houses.
They're already doing it.
That's wild.
So there's a company called Parcel, PRCL, I think is the company, and it's tokenizing property.
Mm.
Same with like hotels. Like you could own a piece of a Marriott in Miami, and then as the value goes up, that token goes up.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I bought it for $100. In 10 years, it's worth 20 grand.
Yeah.
Because of the property value. Instead of having to go buy a whole commercial building or be a part of a fund. So I think they're going to do that for movies, because
it's a good idea. I mean, it's like stocks, but with tangible things.
They're doing it for music for sure.
Yeah.
So like music's the same way. Like imagine you buy a piece of a hit song and it does like billions of streams. Like you just basically get to pick artists. So like maybe you find an artist before everybody else does. You're like, oh, this person, it's cheap now. It's only $5 for a token.
Right.
But I think they're going to be big. So you get to like bet on people and like teams and like athletes and own a piece of their franchise, which I think is cool.
That's wicked cool. Yeah. Especially too, if you follow these kids from college, you know what I mean? And like, and then they get into the NBA and you still own a part of them. Is that slavery? Are you buying people at that point?
No, you're buying into the brand. You're buying into the brand because I think what happens is say like Johnny is really good at basketball and he starts to sell his token to fund like his brand and he sells it for $100 a token, sells 1,000 of them. Now he has $100,000 to go into his brand. And then he takes, so it's like taking capital.
Right.
It's basically like having sponsorship.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's cool because you could end up like owning pieces of teams. Like you could be like, oh, I own a piece of the Celtics or something.
And plus it'd make you want to promote them more because then your evaluation goes up.
Same with movies.
Yeah.
So like you own a piece of the newest movie that's coming out, hits box offices and does records. You now have that value. I don't know how that would work though if you wanted to sell it because like who the hell's going to buy it after it went?
True.
So it's almost like it would have to be like buying into the early stages of it as an investor and then getting paid out and that's it.
Yeah.
Because like there's no long term, like even if it gets streamed on Netflix, I guess you could get paid out for that too. But that's the way the world is going. It's going towards tokenizing assets.
It's very cool. I like that. That's awesome.
Because you could sell your house online. Like imagine if you could just put your house online, somebody could send you an offer, they would pay through secure payment online, and it would make sure the transaction was public and it would go through. You wouldn't have to be like calling banks and shit.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
Well, if you guys want to buy a house, my house is for sale. So feel free to buy it.
Yeah, tokenize that. We could all buy a piece of it and then just throw parties at it.
I'm in.
Yeah, cool. I mean, that's all I got.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, that's the pod.